Hey there, I'm Ken, this is CRT. Welcome to this episode, which is part 2 of the mail call video I started last week. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will put a link up here and one down there for you to check it out. Now, in last week's episode, I unboxed a package from Mr. Dave 6309, so again, a huge thank you to Mr. Dave 6309. And he gave me some project boards to try out. So in the last episode, oh, by the way, about Mr. Dave's project boards, he is actually not just working on these. He's working on a whole bunch of stuff and does in the near future plan on opening an online store to sell them. Now, they're not available yet, but I will keep you informed on my channel here of when and where you will be able to buy these in the future. So in the last episode, I built 2 cartridges, one for my TRS-80 color computer and one for my Atari 8-bit computer. So in this episode, I am going to build the Joystick Converter board for my TRS-80 color computer. And I had mentioned in the last episode that this Atari cartridge actually has 4 games on it. Now when you plug it in right now, it just starts up the one. But there's 2 pins on the chip here that if you vary the electricity going into them, it will change the game that's booted up. So I am going to be adding 2 double throw switches to this board. And we will see if we can get all 4 of those games working. So the 2 pins depend on what power they're getting in. So you've got low, 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 high, high, low, and high, high. And that will depend on which of the 4 games boots up. So we're also going to do that today. So let's get started. I can work on adding the switches to this cartridge. Now, what I'm going to be doing is adding lines to the positive and negative terminals of this capacitor. It's this one right here. And they'll be running to pins 1 and pin 27 on the chip here, so that I can vary the negative or positive going into each one of those pins, and depending on what is going in, should change the game that the cartridge displays. And here is everything that I need for building this little joystick converter board. One of the problems is that these little resistors here, well, I am older than I used to be, obviously, like everybody is, but my eyes don't work as well as they used to, and sometimes I have a little trouble reading the colors on them, especially since I am mildly colorblind, and these blue resistors really make it difficult for me to figure out what the colors are on them. So I got a new toy, and that toy is right here. Now this is actually an ESR meter, so it's for figuring out how good capacitors work, but it has other functions on it too. One of the things that you can do is take a resistor, stick it in, there we go, and turn it on. And then it tests it, and it tells me that this is got a resistance of 998.7 ohms. So this is a 1K resistor. Perfect, I can test all of my resistors like that. But that's not its only functionality. As I told you, it's also an ESR reader, but it reads other things too. So you got one of these little guys. So you can stick them in. Turn it off, there. And test this out. And it gives you all the stats on that too, exactly power flow, where the gate is, everything. So it's a handy little meter. This is a B-side ESR02 PRO. And it was only about, I think, $40 or $45 Canadian, so It's a neat little unit to have if you're a hobbyist like me. So I have done an incredibly stupid thing. I got the board all together, all soldered into place. I was going to put the end back on the plug, and then I realized, yep, that has to be on there, so I should have threaded that on first. So I guess I will be taking all of the wires off of the board here so I can thread this on. Ha! Okay, well, let's do that. So I am about to test out the Atari Cartridge to see if I can get all 4 games working. Now the wiring may look a little bit different than it did when I was putting it together. That is because after I finished putting it together, I tried to see if it would still fit in the case, which it doesn't. And unfortunately I had this wire a little bit too short, and trying to fit it in the case put too much stress on this pin, and I accidentally snapped it off. Unfortunately it snapped off almost right at the chip. I did manage to solder it back on, but I don't know if it's still going to work or not. So I guess there's nothing to do but plug it into the computer and see what happens. Okay, let's plug this into the computer. Now it does say keyboard side on this side, so we have to plug it into the computer this way. Being very gentle because I don't want to break it again. Now I should have it set to, I believe, negative. Anyway, let's test out and see it still works. And here we have Congo Bongo. Okay, stop it, and we will change this one. Boulder Dash. There we go. A classic. Okay, well that works. So now we'll change this switch back. We'll change that one. Oh, and this, I believe, is Frogger 2. All right. Frogger 2. I think that's what this is. Now that means that the other one should be Satan's Hollow. And there it is. All 4 games are working. That is awesome. Now, unfortunately, those switches are too big for it to fit in the case. So eventually, I'm hoping I'll get some smaller switches and maybe able to squeeze this back into that case. But for now, there we go. I've got this 4 games on 1 cartridge. Now it is time to try the Joystick Converter board. Plug that in. And I will try this with my trusty Atari joystick. There we go. Go to games. Let's try Shock Trooper. Ah, there we go. Oh, and it moves. Fire button works, down works, up works. This joystick converter works. There we go. All 3 projects worked out just great. A couple of little hiccups along the way, but everything works. I am so happy. So again, a big thank you to Mr. Dave 6309 for sending me these. I am just so happy with, like, it's unexpected and amazing that he sent me these. And I will be keeping you updated on when he might have these for sale. So yeah, I guess now that I got some new toys to play with, I'm going to do that. So I hope you enjoyed watching me put these projects together. If you did, you know what you can do with a like, a subscribe, or even a comment below, because anything and everything you do is always greatly appreciated. But yep, I am going to play some games with my Atari joystick on my Tandy computer.